Okay. We are live. We are live. We are live. We are live. Live on the World Wide Web, the internet, connecting us all in one great big network of anxiety and anger and fear. Bienvenidos. Welcome, my friends. This is Propaganda Anonymous Jib Jab Hour, aka Media Heist TV. How are you? Good to see you. I hope you're well. I just saw the first episode of Adam Curtis's new documentary. I believe it's called Can't Get You Out of My Head or something like that. This episode. Right off the bat, as usual, I think Adam Curtis is a pretty great documentary filmmaker. Super interesting ideas that he has discussed over these many years now. And the notion that he's seeking to chart an emotional history of sorts of, I guess in this movie, well, quote unquote empires, from America to Britain to Russia to China. And watched the first episode. Very interesting. I have a lot of thoughts. I mean, I am writing the biography about Robert Anton Wilson, who was a Discordian, who, in my years of research, I have to say, I came up with Wilson as co-creating Operation Mindfuck. So I'm just coming right out the gate. And, one criticism of this documentary is, and I'm open to learn, maybe my research was a little off and someone let me know, but from the research I did, Robert Anton Wilson co-created Operation Mindfuck along with Kerry Thornley in 1969 when Wilson sent out a letter to other Discordians and Yippies telling them to bombard, if you will, certain magazines and individuals, people like the John Birch Society, and telling them that all their fears are true about the Illuminati and that they should be very freaked out. Uh, this was their pass of humor, and it was pretty fucking funny at the time. And but again, I'm open. I mean, maybe Curtis is saying where the original seed of Operation Mindfuck came from. But the way that he even discusses he doesn't Curtis doesn't mention Wilson or Robert Shea in the first episode. He just calls them other Discordians that work at Playboy. But this could be a minor issue. Maybe he'll circle back around. Curtis is a smart guy. Well, I'll ride it out. I'll reserve some of these certain critiques for perhaps a later jib jab hour if it's necessary. The positives of it, I mean, he's talking about Discordianism, which is pretty interesting, and he does present Kerry Thornley as a heroic figure of sorts, which is pretty interesting. I had the opportunity to speak with Adam Gorightly a bit during the course of writing this book, and Gorightly is a historian, journalist who wrote Historia Discordia, which is it's the history of Discordianism. You should check out the work of Adam Gorightly, this being a good add-on to Adam Curtis's documentary. Adam Gorightly inherited the Discordian files that was started, the archives, the Discordian archives, that was started by Greg Hill, passed on to Robert Anton Wilson for a bit, back to Greg Hill. Then Dr. Robert Newport inherited the archives, and he then gave them to Adam Gorightly a number of years back now. I don't know if that's the exact way that these papers passed hands, but that's the general vibe. And Adam Gorightly has written a few books already now, and going into the history of Discordianism very well. And he wrote the biography, which Adam Curtis read and interviewed Gorightly for this movie, for his new series, biography about Kerry Thornley called The Trickster and the Conspiracy. For those of you unfamiliar with Kerry Thornley's story, I'll keep watching the Adam Curtis documentary, and but more than anything, check out go write these biographies, and you could always read Robert Anton Wilson about Kerry Thornley. But Kerry Thornley, definitely an interesting, brilliant individual who life put him through the ringer. So one couple things, I don't really want to criticize the documentary too much, just kind of add on to some of the things that Curtis was discussing that I thought was pretty interesting. I mean, for one, that he's bringing up the idea that both this the birthplace of these modern conspiranoid perspectives, the John Birch Society, fear of the Illuminati. Adam Curtis talks about Richard Hofstadter's essay that later became a book. 1964 came out. I'm a little bit blanking on the name right now, but another great book to read along with it then would be Jesse Walker's book, The United States of Paranoia. And he gets into Hofstadter a little bit, and I'm gonna find the name of the book, the essay. Yeah, The Paranoid Style in American Politics. That was Hofstadter was a historian, and he was seeking to call attention to the far right, crazy, kooky shit like the John Birch Society in the 50s, people who supported the presidency of Barry Goldwater, I believe. And Adam Curtis rightly places and grounds this sort of conspiracy theorizing into suburban America, where there's all this more isolation, and even though there are more media devices, increasingly so, people feel an increasing amount of isolation and alienation. And then what fills that vacuum is this anxietous fear and the tendency to want to scapegoat, and the Illuminati conspiracy, where Curtis gets into in the documentary, which Kerry Thornley, Robert Anton Wilson, all these guys already explored so well. The Illuminati conspiracy becomes, again, Jesse Walker's book, The United States of Paranoia, is a really great book to read alongside this documentary now, because Curtis, he applies the analysis of the trope, which is the John Birch Society feels like the Illuminati are the secret conspiracy within, right? Already infecting the government within. The deep state is a trope of the powers, the secret powers are already within the confines of the country, and that's the thing to look out for. That's the scary thing. And then at the same time, the Illuminati is this idea of like it's the enemy without, because they're foreign agents of some sort, and swerving over to Jesse Walker's book. Why I like this, because Curtis mentions this in the documentary, that there's always been a strain of paranoia within American culture, and Curtis roots it to the settler experience of bunch of white slave owning people pushing west into America, manifest destiny, et cetera, et cetera. And then this unresolved guilt for basically doing all this messed up stuff to other people to attain some sort of freedom and liberty in America. So that's where the shadows lie. I think what Curtis is saying, with the skeleton in the closet of the American psyche, is this unresolved guilt for the settling of America, if you will. That's where I think he's going with it. And other people might say that too. And therein lies one seed for thinking conspiratorially about the ghosts somehow that are out there trying to get you in your safe little suburban home, or at least that the American ideal of post-World War II, that there was there were these safe suburban sitcom suburb homes. Um, again, Jesse Walker's book is a real cool book to read alongside with Adam Curtis's exploration of conspiracy theories, because what I like about Jesse Walker's book is he actually he traces this conspiratorial frame of mind. He provides the historical context that Curtis has just basically touched on. So, for instance, Thomas Jefferson, was around like early 1800s, was accused of being an agent of the Illuminati by a preacher in the States, and from the pulpit, he was, casting dispersions upon Jefferson and calling him an agent of the Illuminati. Even further back in the late 1700s, there was the idea that there was a group called the Society of Cincinnati who were secretly trying to plot and take over, the new Republic of America, and on down the line. It seems to be, we're speaking of tropes. There's just, the human mind has this capacity for just repeating the same trope of distrust for others and just filling in the blank with a new group to blame, right? Most people who study propaganda and conspiracy theories, I know you probably already know this. Excuse me, sorry, it's taking a little time to get this all out. So as you guys know, I go by the name Anon. Anon is short for Propaganda Anonymous. It's a name I came up with, and it's in the spirit of like those 1970s artists and hip hop artists, graffiti artists, whatever, you renaming your own identity through a name, through the creation of a name. And doing so, I wanted to create a name that reflected thoughts and ideas about where we're at with identity and propaganda. So Propaganda Anonymous is a name, but it's also a description of the time we're presently living through. Came up in the name, I guess, like 20 years ago or whatever. It's crazy to think, it's 20 fucking years. But and that was just a description where I thought propaganda was going to go, right? So we're going to file this under the Propaganda Anonymous Chronicles instead of videos. And I just want to hop into what I want to do here on this channel for some of y'all who want to follow along with where I'm going with some of these things. I had this idea a long time ago for the Propaganda Anonymous Manifesto, and it's basically an extrapolation of, an exploration of propaganda, an extrapolation of this time that we live in, where more and more propaganda is coming at you from anonymous sources than ever before. And I think that's worthy to reflect on and to think about, especially when it comes to this idea of manipulation and coercion, that, somehow propaganda has this ability to coerce people and make them do things that upon reflection they may not have wanted to do in the first place, but they got swept away by the emotional appeals of propaganda, etc., what have you. But one thing that I'm getting into with this idea of Propaganda Anonymous is that we are surrounded by the relics of propaganda of the past, right? So one, for instance, of this is propaganda is not just words and posters and ideas and memes on the computer. It's physical things, right? Propaganda are statues. Statues are propaganda. It was Alexander the Great who came up with the idea of creating statues of himself and putting it all over the large geographical space of the Greek Empire at the time, the Hellenistic age. Alexander the Great, and he put these statues up in order to remind people that he was the authority of the land, right? That they lived, and it gave, say, conquered people in Persia, uh, you know, a line, a relation to let them believe that, oh, right, like Greece is the homeland. Greece, I'm in the empire of Greece. Swerving back to Adam Curtis's first installment of his new documentary, he's speaking about the empire, the British Empire, and people who were raised within the the islands that were part of the empire, or the far off places that were part of the empire. So India and Trinidad. He focuses on people coming from those areas of the world that were under the auspice or authority of the British Empire. And shout out to Father Crow for in our discussion bringing this up, that the idea that people say that individual, that guy from Trinidad, or people from the Caribbean, or people from India who post World War II went to England, uh, believing that this was their homeland because they were subjects of the colonial regime where they were. And unfortunately, they didn't find a welcoming motherland. They found a lot of small, angry, struggling British people who were quick to point the finger and blame them for the problems that were, as we know, being instituted from the top. Generally, most of the time, most were problems generally from the few elite fuckheads that want to mess with everyone else. This is the long history of knowledge that it's not always an axiom, but oftentimes, top down fuckery messes with everyone. Flashback 2008 financial crisis, Wall Street speculation, subprime mortgages, a lot of, just glips and glops on the computer screen, like them chopping up mortgages and different types of debt and selling it off to other institutions that buy debt. Just total confusion, right? And it's all fuckery from a certain aspect of the top down, and then everyone else has been paying the price since 2008 for the last 13 years. Uh, Take a look around. I don't know what the homeless situation is like where you're at, but out in Los Angeles, it's pretty bad right now. Swerving back on over to the idea of statues being, propaganda, and obviously they are. People know that. People know that statues are propaganda. Not all people know that. I mean, that was a huge thing in America, and also in Europe, or maybe Britain and Ireland right now. The idea of taking down statues of just Confederate heroes, white, slave owning, like Confederate soldiers or whatever. That whole movement to build those statues in America of the Confederate soldiers, or things like that. That was a propaganda campaign done by Confederate groups, or people who wanted to maintain a perspective that many people would just call racist in the South, by venerating people who were fighting for the cause of slavery, right? And so when all these people have been, and same goes for the Confederate flag, like, this is propaganda. Flags in and of themselves are propaganda, and the question that comes to my mind is, the symbols that we have. um there are two approaches, right? There are people that believe that the symbol itself essentially holds this quality that is absolute and immutable, right? And therefore it's sacred, right? And people go crazy about the flag all the time, flag wars, you know what I mean? And these are symbols. These are symbols that are receivers of our emotion, and then that in and of itself is propaganda. This is all very simple. You guys all know this, right? I'm sure you all know this already. Like George Carlin said something, right? He's like, I prefer to leave symbols to the symbol minded, right? Like, this is all very shit we should know already, but we forget all the time, right? And this is how, like, I don't know, man. You could say this is how we get taken advantage of, but that's the argument for propaganda, that propaganda in some way is able to coercively manipulate our minds in ways that we're not aware of. So, long story short, I'm gonna hop into, we're gonna do some study sessions. That's what we're gonna do here on the Prop Anon channel. All right. And this book is a cool book. It's called Propaganda and Persuasion. Dude, that's like some World War I type shit. You can tell that's World War I by the mustache. Motherfucker's mustache right here. That dude right there. All right. And I think it's this is just like a course of fucking studying propaganda right now. Why not? Um, as I was talking about Alexander the Great, he was around, BCE, right? So to give an understanding of how far back the human use of propaganda is, right? The Tibetan Book of the Dead speaks about the realm of humanity itself. The bardo of humanity is one of intrigue. There's something about the human mind thus far, up until this point of thousands of years of existence or whatever, that intrigue and scandal. Intrigue is just a part of humanity, right? This is the drama of even schlock TV, and soap opera and stuff. And some people have created ideas and theories, like Joseph Campbell, that he seeks to chart a course of movement, maybe of personal evolution of the hero's journey, right? And I know today there's criticism of the idea of the hero's journey. Of course, it's a hero, not a heroine, but maybe hero heroine's journey. But the movement that Campbell observed through reading all these different world mythologies that he observed, um, which he also was inspired by James Joyce, really, with the idea of the monomyth. The monomyth, then, with all these differences that there are in people, and all these different people and cultures and classes throughout history, Campbell finds one sort of idea that's the same, and that's the hero's journey, based on this idea of the monomyth, that there are stages that a human may face, at least within the stories that we tell, and we have to overcome things or find things out about ourselves, and be a hero or a heroine. Like, this is the struggle, the human struggle, like how to we love intrigue, man. We love scandal, propaganda takes advantage of that, but there are many things, as we'll see going into this book. There are obviously a few different definitions of propaganda, and the idea of propaganda itself, of how effective it really is a great question. And so, just touching off this book, really, fast forwarding to a quick discussion of the idea of how effective propaganda is. And again, one aspect that I see of propaganda is that definition or something is that it seemingly works beneath a level of conscious awareness. So therefore, it's an aspect of coercion. So persuasion is the utilization of reason, communication, to persuade the person you're speaking with to see something from your point of view, right? It's very above board, and it's a good communicatory ritual or something, right? um, Coercion is just trying to get people to do shit that you want them to do without having to fucking clear it by them and try to convince them and persuade them that this is the best thing for their fucking interests. After all, it's just activating their limbic system you know, and meaning seeking to get them to feel fear, anxiety, paranoia, and then steer that to where you want to take them. I think we live in the age of steering. Everything is about steering today, from trying to the social media sites or fucking internet data engines or whatever, trying to steer people to different websites through clicks or whatever the fuck, right? To real estate agents that it's illegal to practice redlining today. And redlining was that practice of where they put up a fucking map of an area and outlined in red where they were not going to sell to black people and Jewish people way back in the day, right? And so it's illegal to redline today, but it's seemingly not that illegal, even though it is, but it's not always, fucking prosecuted to steer people and steering people to different fucking neighborhoods. It's essentially a fucking another way of redlining, but it's being done still in America. That's why you drive around and you see that there's still kind of segregated parts in your city, no matter where the fuck you are in America. There's still segregation, and redlining and steering is one reason why, and that idea that propaganda is the same thing, that it's a battle for the hearts and mind of people. You're essentially trying to steer people, like steer people to a fucking Capitol riot where you're gonna try to take over the fucking country through breaking the windows and calling for heads. You got steered, man. you know but another aspect of Propaganda Anonymous is it happens. People, we fall for shit. The greatest conspiracy of all is the conspiracy of stupidity. I wonder if Adam Curtis will get into that. He doesn't need to. Robert Anton Wilson got into it pretty well, and he actually is backed up by a lot of social science. Karl Marx actually said that the second reason for major wars, the first being resources, right? But the second reason for major wars was human stupidity. Human stupidity, man. You know, and human stupidity, manifests in different reasons. It's not just different ways. It's not just, slapstick stupidity. It's, a lot of decisions of war is stupidity, right? A lot of decisions concerning the environment now are pretty stupid, right? Short-term gain for long-term detriment, etc. But how does that stupidity play out in Propaganda Anonymous? Well, it's kind of just, seeking to increase a greater compassion for yourself and then maybe others, man, if this is even possible in this day and age, where, nobody's fucking perfect. All right. Like people fall for stupid shit. Right. Um, people get caught up in cults like QAnon, or cult of personality, or cult of ideology, right? Cults of ideology are the deepest ones that seem the most entrenched. And basically, it's all Propaganda Anonymous is an approach to try to like apply a certain amount of like understanding and compassion that we all make mistakes, right? But you got to learn from those mistakes, and you have to understand how the mind works, and also too, man, like we all fuck up here and there, you know what I mean? Like we all fall for either our own propaganda or other people's propaganda, but the most important thing is to come back to center as soon as you can. That's it. That might be the only thing we can learn in this life, is you get carried away and just try to bring it back, try to root it into your daily existential living experience, and there's a lot of like things right now that are here now, and also on the way, like in terms of internet technology, that will enable more of a virtual disembodied experience of a creation of the human mind, which is great, but like we can't lose touch with our organic selves, as Doug Rushkoff says, team human. We have these organic bodies still that have not evolved for thousands of years right? While our minds seemingly is evolving in leaps and bounds, but is it really? You know, um, and I find it um, beneficial for myself anyway to analyze propaganda, you know, and nobody's perfect though, you know, so like I think everyone needs to chill with the calling of people's heads right now. You know what I mean? Like everyone needs to chill with that shit right now. Like, because like stupidity is also contagious. That's something else about the conspiracy of stupidity. You know, people lose their shit in groups. It just happens, man. It's like a fucking the dominoes just fucking rolling through. You know, so um, that's why it's very important to stay grounded in some existential sense of yourself in the here and now. And like I said, it's not always easy, but it can be done. And the the one thing that I really wanted to touch on with this about the idea of propaganda, um, propaganda as a science, I suppose, has been studied a lot since the end of World War II. Post World War II studies of propaganda, because propaganda was used, wartime propaganda was used so much in everything. I mean, there were even fucking Disney cartoons that were propaganda. You know, little Donald Duck fighting the Nazis, Captain America fighting the Nazis, and you know, rightly so. But again, this is propaganda, right? Um, uh, you know, when there's a country at war and the use of propaganda for the war is used, it needs to be a united front. There's no time for dissenting viewpoints. There's no time for second guessing. When the wartime perspective is on, we declare war on something. There's a mind state that goes with that, and anyone that's talking anything that sounds like it's dissent will quickly get shut down. That seems to be what happens. It's like collectively, the whole country or nation or whatever, or people that declare war, you know, they collectively stop functioning from like their fucking neocortex and all move down to the limbic system to have to just get this shit done, you know. And I'm not blaming anything right now. There's no blame in this current talk. This is all just trying to understand how our fucking human mind functions, right? and and speaking of that, like propaganda was practiced in World War One, and you know, by both the American side and the German side. On the American side, a guy named Creel was made the head of a commission, and they came up with the what they did was they read a report, Creel and his people, about the Huns, the Germans in World War One, about how they were burning corpses, right? The German word corpse, like with a K, and the people who translated it, they're burning corpses for oil or fats for oil and stuff, right? Animal corpses. But the Creel Commission people who translated it, they translated the word corpse instead of animal corpse for a human corpse, and they knew the difference. They knew German well enough to know that in the context that that word was being used, they meant animal, dead animal bodies. But the Creel Commission people uh, purposely put it out that the Germans were burning human bodies for oils to burn down. And so to the American public, this was the final straw, so to speak, like a public that did not really want to go and enter World War One in America. And, you know, Woodrow Wilson, I think, ran on that promise that he would not take America into the war. Um, Once the American public got word that the German soldiers were, you know, doing these war atrocities, they got worked up and they're like, fuck it, take these bastards down. What are they doing? Well, it turns out that shit was bullshit. Flash forward to the American War, invasion of Iraq in 2002 or 2003, right? March 2003. The whole idea of weapons of mass destruction, they never existed. The weapons of mass destruction never existed. This was the whole premise of the start of the Iraq War. Propaganda, this is the age we're living in. And again, I'm just unpacking stuff right here. All right, like I'm open. You guys wanna, write your opinions and viewpoints on all of this stuff of propaganda, etc. Do it. Let's explore this. But I want to work off this textbook right here for now. In the discussion and breakdown of propaganda. So World War I, right? Creel, after the war, right? He writes a book, and he says, I was involved in the promotion of propaganda for the American war effort, to capture the hearts and minds of the American people, to get them to want to go to war with Germany. And we did such and such. Creel comes out later, much like Albert Einstein with the Manhattan Project, when all these physicists were put to work in a secret fucking program to create a nuclear weapon. Einstein later really regretted taking part in that program. Creel also regretted taking part in this commission of which they created propaganda and sold it to the American people in order for them to want to go to war and to enter World War I, etc. So he and a few others are of this mindset then that propaganda actually works, and that it does do something to the human mind to lead people into action, right? And in this case, the action was the call to want to finally go and enter World War One. But there's another camp, and later this comes out, I'd say after, and I think Adam Curtis touches on this a little bit. Flash forward to the 50s and the 60s, especially the 50s. There is this idea. This guy named Vance Packard puts out a book in 1958 called The Hidden Persuaders. And it's about a few things, but essentially it's a book about propaganda and coercion, directed at the American public, at the hands of the public relations industry and the publicity and advertising industry, because a man named Edward Bernays, who was Sigmund Freud's nephew, in the early 20th century, applied Freud's insights into the human psyche, about their irrational desires, and Bernays applied this to advertising and public relations. Bernays wrote a book called Propaganda, and then he wrote a book called Public Relations after that. And he's got one section in the book Propaganda, which is like, he says, if you want to sell a piano, right, don't focus on selling the piano, sell a room set, sell the furniture in the room, sell the room, and then the people are going to want a piano, right? So this is the level of psychological knowledge that's being applied to capitalism, to people buying shit. One During that time of Bernays, there was another guy, Ernest Deichter, Dichter, I think, right? And I find him interesting because actually Robert Anton Wilson, the guy I'm writing a biography about, the other Discordians that work at Playboy, according to Adam Curtis, the co-author of the Illuminati trilogy, Robert Anton Wilson. In the early 60s, he worked for a magazine called Fact, and it's actually seen as a pretty pioneering magazine for investigational humorous satire. And Wilson probably, uh, after reading Vance Packard's book, The Hidden Persuaders, because Vance Packard features uh, Diker in the book, Ernest Diker. Wilson interviews Ernest Diker. He goes to interview him for an article that he wrote for Fact Magazine, which maybe I'll put it in the box below or something. It's a good article. It's Wilson's at his journalistic finest. Um, but Diker was known for this idea called motivational research, and he was praised in the industry for applying new techniques, which was basically interviews. He was basically doing interviews. So early focus groups, like Diker is like the father of the focus group, right? And he was put to work. He was a psychoanalyst, a psychologist, I don't know, in Austria or something, somewhere in Europe, right? And he came over to America, and he went to work for Procter and Gamble, and he figured out how to sell more soap to people. And what he found out through these interviews was that, people, maybe more women than anything, I don't know, men too, who knows, but people associated a sexual feeling with their baths, you know? And I mean, this has been advertising since World War II, this association with sexual feelings to products. So he was one of those early people who figured that out, right? Diker, this guy Diker, and he made a shit ton of money. The father of motivational research. Um, this is where this is, say, according to this book, right? Uh, Even people like Diker, that stuff is rooted in the study and analysis of propaganda. You want to figure out how advertising works, study propaganda. In other words, that's pretty much where I'm going with that. Now, Vance Packard, according to this book, uh, criticism of Vance Packard, which I find very interesting, and where I think Adam Curtis is going with his documentary in terms of his criticism of the MK Ultra, um, the CIA operation at MK Ultra. And in Curtis's first episode here of his new documentary, he focuses on Ewan Cameron. And I gotta say, though, here's another critique. Curtis says that Ewan Cameron was the head of MK Ultra. I don't know if I heard that right or wrong, but Ewan Cameron was not the head of MK Ultra. The head of MK Ultra was Sidney Gottlieb. Sidney Gottlieb, and I think that's necessary to know that. You should know who Sidney Gottlieb is, as well as Ewan Cameron. Ewan Cameron was actually a practicing psychologist of sorts. This guy was frying people's brains. He was putting their heads up and blah, electrocuting their neurons. Like, and then giving them mega doses of LSD. As Curtis puts in his documentary, Cameron wanted to wipe memories and then be able to re-implant memories. And this goes under the study then of attitude adjustment, behavior modification. And again, behavior modification, attitude adjustment, for me, being Propaganda Anonymous, where I'm going with this, again, it's just all the study of propaganda. Just study propaganda. On back, propaganda being a practice done by humanity through the ages. One other thing, swerving back to Alexander the Great, how not only did he create statues of himself to be placed in the far off lands of the Greek Empire, so people wouldn't forget who's running shit, right? He also had that was no, that was Caesar who had coins made a lot, which is another type of propaganda I'll get into. Caesar was known as a master propagandist, right? But what Alexander the Great did was he had the priests deify him as the son of Zeus. So no longer was Hercules the son of Zeus, Alexander the Great was the son of Zeus. And this is an old practice of propaganda by the rulers, if you will. Well, no, the fucking rulers who constantly put it out that they are the progeny of the gods. Generally, it's been the sun god. And Robert Anton Wilson breaks that down very well in his book, Cosmic Trigger 2, Down to Earth, where he was writing about the lead up to the war in Iraq, Operation Desert Storm in 1991, and just about all the fuckheads who have just, constantly claimed to be the Sun King. I'm the Sun King, top of the motherfucking pyramid, and you assholes got to do everything I say because my dad is the god Zeus or whatever. This is where we come from. This is where humans are evolving from. Yeah, we're human, and yeah. Anyway, that is propaganda, pure and simple, right? So my argument is more things are propaganda than we even know, right? And but the studying it is a form of liberation, and especially with this part. Vance Packer, his book comes out in 1958. Well, in 1953, MK Ultra was instituted, based off of a speech by Alan Dulles, where he, tells a conference of people or something that the Korean army have Korean military have figured out a way to brainwash American POWs, and that America therefore needs to understand how they did the brainwashing, and they need to start a program called MK Ultra where they would study brainwashing on their own people, generally without their knowledge or consent, and with the result being just a bunch of fried brain people who who knows, man. I mean, if the MK Ultra fried a lot of brains, man, but Ken Kesey also did a lot of acid during that, so that's pretty dope. But this was what they said. I mean, this is what the counterculture said about LSD. Then was that MK Ultra, that the CIA trying to use LSD as a brainwashing tool failed, right? Because they had a lack of understanding of the human mind, right? Now, this is another important current, right? I think of Doug Rushkoff with what I'm about to say, and I think of the Cambridge Analytica scandal or whatever, right? Which I'm about to speak on. And that Cambridge Analytica was this British company that, we all know came out around 2000, whenever, right? Saying that they fucking hacked into the Facebook thing, studied everybody's profiles, created psychographic profiles of everyone. And the people who run Cambridge Analytica, they're selling this knowledge to whoever wants to buy it. You know what I mean? And they're saying, hey, we can help you through the knowledge that we have of the human brain. You could sell whatever fucking piece of bullshit propaganda you want. You could sell that Trump is the fucking leader of a secret fucking army that's taking out all these pedophiles and taking down the deep state. You can fucking do that if you want, unfortunately, but really more so fortunately, what so many of these mind fuckers have failed to really do is truly capture the human mind. Or so goes the counter argument to someone like Vance Packard's argument, right? So, in other words, and again, Curtis gets into it through his interview with that one doctor that was involved in the MK Ultra trials. Um, his thought was that the human mind can be manipulated, and that they were going to try to manipulate it, and ultimately it was for the benefit of Americans by destroying the brains of all these Americans. There's some logic for you right there, right? Let's read some comments here. Father Crow says Sun Kings in Celtic history generally got killed after a year by priestess matriarchy to be replaced by a new Sun King for the new year. It's a rough job, man. Jesus Christ. You get a year as king and then you get chopped up, huh? That's some brutal shit. Let's see. Just looking at everything says, "Hey, found you from your anti-Q talks. How do you rate the latest Adam Curtis joint? Can't get you out of my head." Well, hey, it just so happens, just so looking at everything, this whole fucking talk that I'm giving right here is me talking about the new Adam Curtis joint. Can't get you out of my head. So what you got to do is watch the whole thing from the beginning. I'll put it up on the YouTube. You know, you can watch this whole thing because that's what I'm talking about. Essentially, this is my comment add-on. Wouldn't call it a critique so much yet of Adam Curtis's new documentary. It's just things that I find interesting, and it's a good opening to speak about some other things surrounding his analysis because this is great that he's bringing this out really because there's so much to unpack. And the idea of propaganda. This is where he's going to go. The idea of propaganda. Is so major today. You know, let's see. Father Crow says, and the CIA did it. MK Ultra in Canada and Canadian hospitals and Canadian citizens. You got to, okay. Yes. Father Crow, correct. The CIA also, Ewan Cameron, he was in Canada. He was working out of McGill University in Canada. So it's pretty fucked up too, right? You know, but the thing with the CIA it is a organization or whatever governmental body that is supposed to work only outside of America, but continually it comes out that the CIA is doing operations domestically in America, which is pretty fucked up, man. Right? I mean, um, but again, uh, let's see. Touching on this real quick, the CIA is a crazy topic, right? But this is where the Robert Anton Wilson application of the idea of fungible versus non-fungible comes to play. And again, it's the idea of propaganda too. Well, fungible versus non-fungible is used in RICO cases, meaning that the one part is not really representative of the whole. Well, in RICO cases, it is. This one part, this one person who is in this crew, should get the same amount of time for that these other people, the other crimes that these people committed in the crew. Homie over here is just selling some fucking weed, but he's in a crew with those guys, and that guy killed someone. So RICO statutes say that they all go down on the same shit. If I have my understanding of RICO law correctly, that's the idea of fungible versus non-fungible. Essentially, it just says that in reality, though, you can't do that. You can't judge one person based on the generalization of the whole. And this is something that's constantly getting done. People are mixing up fungible versus non-fungible all the time. Oh, you're this, so you're a representative of this group. You're a fucking piece of shit because that group's a bunch of pieces of shit. I don't know how far this is going to get us, even though some fucked up shit has been done in the world by some groups of people, who have benefited from privilege for hundreds of fucking years. And, you got to fucking own up to the bullshit that was done in the past, man. So everyone can move on, and you just see this constant thing of, some fucked up shit gets done and people don't want to look at it. Like the Capitol riots, say you want to move on. No, man, you can't move on from that, man. You got to keep looking at shit. We got to keep unpacking shit. And this is why people like me are here, man. I'm going to help motherfuckers unpack all this shit, so before I close out, the the last thing I wanted to focus on is, Vance Packard's book, because that was a seminal book in this idea of breaking down propaganda. Vance Packard, The Hidden Persuaders, it's based on the idea, just like Alan Dulles had and the MK Ultra boys had, that the human mind is so manipulable, so easily you can mix it and mash it in all these different ways that you like. Unfortunately, there's no research to really back that up. I could be wrong. I'll just say this: according to this book, which was written, the science has come. This was written in 1999. Vance Packard's book just basically touched on almost a conspiratorial way of thinking in a way, right? Not totally, but almost, that somehow these advertisers have all this knowledge about the human brain that we don't have, that they can manipulate us through the mass media in ways that we don't even know. And I'm going to say this is mostly true, but it's worthy to explore where it doesn't turn out to be true. And the way that these things are sold by both the people who are telling us, yo, look out for propaganda. We got to look out because we could be manipulated. RFK Jr., he's putting out anti-vax stuff on his Instagram. People could not want to get fucking vaccinated because Robert fucking Kennedy Jr. is telling people that vaccines could fucking genetically fuck with people. We got to take them down. Like many people will argue that this is something that needs to be done right now. But to me, I'm sorry, this sounds weird to me. This guy's not calling for people to storm the fucking Capitol. You know what I mean? He could be saying some wild ass shit that may not be fucking true at all. But like, this is where we're at. Where you can't just ignore a motherfucker. His voice needs to be taken down because he's a conspiracy theorist. You know what I mean? Like this is an area that this conversation is so alive right now. In terms of the internet, what is disinformation? What is misinformation? Who's judging this? And this is not a defense of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s perspective on vaccines at all. I'm not trying to say he's right or wrong. I'm just fucking commenting on what happened, and how this idea of conspiracy theories, disinformation, misinformation, and propaganda is more important than ever. We should not be asleep at this shit. We should be fucking reading these books about what the fuck is propaganda, man. You know, and what sort of effect does it have on the human mind? Because I go back and forth. I see where propaganda has been quite effective on a mass scale to get people to do stuff. I'm not going to deny that at all. I think QAnon was propaganda, and it seemed to modify people's behaviors, and if you're looking at it in that respect, the internet itself is propaganda, right? Like, that's where I'm going with this too. Like, where things that we take for granted, currency, right? The faces we see on our currency is propaganda. That's why people, they might not give a shit about Harriet Tubman being on the $20 bill, or why not just keep Andrew Jackson or put Harriet Tubman or whatever. Like, symbols, they do something still for people. And I just want to observe, analyze, and unpack, and on the notion of this idea that they are able to manipulate us, through these levels of communication, like through memes. Memes can influence your behavior. Like, maybe. That's all I'm saying. Maybe, maybe not. You got to look at the science of this shit. Read some fucking books about this. Don't just fucking tweet off, top of your mouth. Like, you don't even know who the fuck Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is. You think he's a politician. He's not. He's an environmental lawyer. You know what I mean? You think he's on a talk radio show? He doesn't have a talk radio show. He's not Rush Limbaugh. He's not a right-wing nut. He's a guy who watched his uncle, who was the president of the United States, get his fucking head blown off. And he was a guy he watched his dad get assassinated too. And you wonder, oh, why is he a conspiracy theorist? I don't know. But that's kind of, like, again, I'm not trying to defend this guy. I just think it's crazy that this is where we're at. And I just think a more open debate about this notion of propaganda is needed and necessary. So I'm going to keep digging into the stuff. This was a lot of jib jab right here, but we're approaching the hour. I'm gonna talk about this book a little bit and just unpack propaganda. Let's see here. We got some more comments. Father Crow says, most everything is propaganda. Most communication is designed to change people's behavior. Some is weaponized, though. Exactly. So it's Father Crow says, most everything is propaganda. Most communication is designed to change people's behavior. Some is weaponized, though. Exactly. So, I mean, this is where I'm going with this here, man. I want to do some serious unpacking, uh, the idea of propaganda of everyday life, you know. But I do believe that if we have knowledge about how this works, man, maybe it just helps a little bit with understanding maybe ideologies that we have that we take for granted, and those ideologies become reality tunnels that then we see the world through, and we edit out all this other information. People talk about the social media echo chamber, like, man, that shit's already existed. People live in echo chambers. It's called the reality tunnel. They've been living in echo chambers their whole life. I understand the internet has increased all this stuff, but again, I want to get into the stuff here, and see what comes out. I mean, we could perhaps, at least I'm trying to be more chill in my life and less taken in by propaganda. That's why I'm doing this. Let's see, just looking at everything says, but what do you do when the prop is automated and not created by a human? Exactly. I don't know. Just looking at everything, are you an automated thing? Because just kidding, but it could be. I mean, this is where we're at. This is propaganda anonymous. This is the propaganda is itself anonymous, and it could be an AI, it could be a bot, and this is what I hope to get into more in my jib jab hours of breaking down propaganda anonymous. When the propaganda is a weaponized AI. Or not, or it's just an AI or a bot, we enter an interesting realm that is almost like a magical realm, where these non-human voices are trying to influence our human behaviors. And so there's a lot to get into with that. So long story short, one other solution, if you will, I think, is just the study of like magic and mythology, and understanding the spirits. But let's see, just looking at everything also says, understand about RFK Jr., but I think the early Q people were entrapped by CP material from 4 and 8chan. I don't know what the CP material is, copy paste, whatever. But yeah, definitely. Just looking at everything from my understanding of it too. Those first Q drops went out on 4chan in late October 2017 or 2018? I think 2017, right? Late October 2017. Um, right. They were entrapped by that material. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a cult debugger. I don't know how exactly to get people out of certain mind states. Again, I'm just trying to live my life with understanding this age of exponentially increased misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, and information, right? And personally, what I would like would be to spend less amount of time dealing with mis and disinformation, and more amount of time dealing with information to implement it in my life and to enrich and make my life better, which brings it back to Curtis's cool analysis of Kerry Thornley and the Discordians when he's talking about Greg Hill's perspective when Thornley and Hill were in the bowling alley in Whittier in 1958. Again, 1958. And they were speaking about the universe, and Greg Hill said, kind of echoing Friedrich Nietzsche, saying that all is chaos, and we project a map of order onto this chaos, and that's all we can do, and so we might as well create and project cooler, more fun, more compassionate, more loving maps onto the chaos, and I mean, people are dealing with that today. I saw this YouTube thing from I guess it's geared towards younger people today, people dealing with the world, right, in their late teens, early 20s, and it's called From Doomer to Bloomer. right? And that, people, young people feel like doomers now, right? Not just young people, but, doom scrolling. Everywhere you look on the internet is doom. Humans are fucking it all up. There's nothing but doom out there. You know, uh, doom metal is pretty dope music. I like doom rock, doom metal, stoner doom shit. But that doom, the person recommends in this YouTube video like how to change up your shit, right? Like all is chaos, man. That is what it is. But we can, find that strength within ourselves, and it's usually through art, says Nietzsche. You know, that we can create new maps that we project onto this chaos, and then maybe that helps us fucking live in whatever the fuck all this shit is, you know, and maybe be decent people to each other, and so Greg Hill is basically saying this Nietzschean, rap to Thornley in the bowling alley in Whittier in 1958. And it's cool that these current people are saying that the Discordians came up with the idea of chaos philosophy or something, if you will, like the notion that all is chaos. But we got to unpack that too, man. They didn't single-handedly come up with that. Thornley, Hill, and Wilson and Shea. Wilson, for instance, was a huge fan of Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche is like the philosopher of chaos, really, if we want to take it there, and you could probably bring it back further if you want, right? But in the modern world, if you will, this idea of chaos and projecting a better map onto this territory that we can never totally map. You might as well create better and better maps for yourself and others, right? That's the idea. So, just looking at everything, uh, yeah, I agree. I mean, the early 4chan and 8chan things, I don't know, man. Meaning becomes a part of this too. People search for meaning, and meaningful existence that engages both their fantastical mind, their fantasy mind, and like their everyday reality. And we're at this point now because aided, and it's going to increase, where the fantasy life, where the map could seem like it's superseding the territory, but it's not. It's a stimulation of the territory, because according to Hill and Wilson and the rest, you can never totally understand, the territory. We can only understand the maps that we create of these territories. And again, you might as well map it to like a nice sunset beach, or where you could get good weed, and not map it to, the fucking like I don't know, tons of shit that you could fall face first into. Let's see. Father Crow says that's the rub, especially since propaganda farms may not be designed to get you to behave in a specific manner. Much of it could be designed to cause anxiety, and by that cause paralysis that makes people easier to govern. Yeah, right. Father Crow agreed. I think this is where it's currently at. This idea of I don't know, controlling people through their anxiety, right? Um, let's unpack that though too. This is an old trope as well, and Wilson comments on it in Prometheus Rising and other books, that basically it's, hey, we're over here. It's the idea of the other, fearing the other, and how utilizing fear of the other helps maintain control over your populace, right? And this current moment that we're in, because mass media propaganda, which Vance Packard was commenting on in 1958, has become micronized, right? Fractalized with the internet, or was, and now where are we now with the internet? You look on YouTube, people are getting demonetized. I wonder how long I'm going to be able to have this channel if I get monetized, if they'll demonetize me for the shit I'm talking about. To even have to think about that. Because the internet in the 90s was this techno utopian dream, this libertarian fucking wet dream where you could get on, you could say whatever the fuck, Well, now you can't. We're in this whole new weird thing of the internet is growing out of adolescence and trying to, we're trying to figure out how to be decent internet people or something. I don't know. But how to function outside of the anxiety and fear, the fear that causes paralysis. Yeah, I think this has been a thing of, I don't know, not the counterculture, but different countercultures, which is you can't give into that. You can't give into the paralysis of shutting down and shutting up. We just have to learn better ways to speak to each other, and that's not easy. You know what I mean? Let's see. Just looking at everything says, oh, Father Crow digging for wisdom. Right on, bro. Just looking at everything says, I'm interested in the mechanics of it. I've run into things by accident. Okay. Yeah, well, I hope to explore the mechanics of all this more, and more the history of it, because I think the mechanics of propaganda systems today is entering the realm of, like, I mean, data science. Understanding these algorithms and, yeah, however that stuff works. I'm still learning that. Like, for instance, someone I know recommended a video by some guy who I watched, and I disagreed with a whole lot of it. This person was a fucking, seemed to me like a rampant Trump supporting person, and was trying to make the argument that the people who stormed the Capitol were not Trump supporters, but some interior group, probably Antifa, who were the ones that broke the windows and let all these people in, et cetera, et cetera. That there were no Trump supporters who essentially stormed the Capitol, right? So I was like, this is utter nonsense. I turned this shit off. This person's YouTube channel, and I'm speaking about propaganda now and these algorithms. I only watched this person's YouTube channel for like fucking like 10 minutes, and I haven't clicked on this guy's thing ever again. For some fucking reason, this guy and his little YouTube channel, and I'm not even going to name it because this guy doesn't deserve it, the attention. He appears on my fucking, the first video of my search of my home, whatever, YouTube homepage, right? People that I've been watching for years on YouTube don't even get that position. And I watched this fucking person for 10 minutes, and his channel appears like that over and over again. I mean, again, I'm not a data scientist. I can't say for sure. Everything is anecdotal right now. All I could do is point out and say that that's weird. And, is that propaganda in and of itself? I don't know. But I know that guy is on his channel talking about liberal propaganda, because now this is where we're at. Everyone is pointing the finger of propaganda at everyone else now, and it seems like total and utter chaos. And for me, I'm just going to keep digging into this because I've always been interested in this, and I think it's good to keep unpacking. So let's see. Father Crow said, all is chaos and all is meaningless, but don't stop there. We can create our own meaning. The basis of magic: make love the law, love under will, as the beast once said. So Crawley too, right? Yes, there you go. Right, Crawley extending the I don't know, the existential understanding, if you will, of universe. Um, the idea of chaos. I mean, this is then the idea of, well, quantum physics, the Copenhagen interpretation. That who was the person that came up with the Copenhagen interpretation? Bohr. I think David Bohr, right? And his debates then with Einstein. That the Copenhagen interpretation kind of being that we don't really know what's going on in the atom at the sub particle level. We don't really know what's going on at the subparticle level. All we know is what we've described, right? All we know is what we can describe, and our descriptions don't really account for everything that's going on there. Like that being the Copenhagen interpretation, I suppose, of quantum physics, of which there are at least 8 different interpretations of what's going on with quantum physics, right? And this being one other element to understanding this world of seeming of definite exponential increase in information. that there are so many different plausible explanations for events and things, etc., at parsing out the signal from the noise, the information from the deliberate disinformation. And that's what so many people are trying to figure out today. Again, the whole 20th century was really also an analysis of propaganda and trying to unpack propaganda and not be taken in by different types of propaganda, because yeah, propaganda itself, it's also defined in different ways. Some people see the propaganda as like this inherently bad thing. Some people just define it as a way to get the word out. I guess it just depends on who's got the power and the privilege to disseminate the message that they want. Let's see. Reading the comments, just looking at everything says, I want more harmonia and less eris. Forget concordia and discordia. Yeah, right on, man. I mean, harmony in the chaos. Yeah, I mean, again, right? Like, how do we interpret existence? I mean, you speak of harmony. Uh, we can ultimately view things through a musical perspective. And every sentient being has got some kind of like positive contribution to make to the whole, you know, um, and how we can live that harmony. It's engaging in the everyday life when resources seemingly become more and more scarce is where that discordia seems to really come out, and harmony. I mean, yeah, I mean, please, you tell me, man. How do you achieve personal harmony in this age of chaos, right? Because I'll be straight up. I mean, I'm out here trying to fix my car, smashing up my fingers, like, uh, so I could, you know, work, delivering food, etc., to survive. And this is the COVID reality that we live in, right? Um, I mean, this is like hats off to the people that are able to maintain personal harmony in such chaotic times. Um, and I mean, I think this is going to be one of the unfortunate things, maybe, of the fallout of QAnon, perhaps, is there might be less time for a discussion of conspiracy theories and the idea of conspiracies. Um, I mean, people are, because of QAnon, some people who may not already know much about RFK may already just think that he's JFK Jr., right? Because QAnon was talking about JFK Jr. And, I'm going to be straight up. I think QAnon is propaganda. I think, and this is a speculation, though. I think one of the things I speculate is that QAnon was put out as well to discredit serious investigative journalism into, I mean, the idea of deep politics. I mean, the idea of the deep state, that term is totally bastardized now because it was run through the shit by Hannity and Trump and the rest of those idiots. Like, but the person who came up with that terminology in deep politics was a man named Peter Dale Scott, who might still be alive. He's an academic. He's written a ton of books analyzing American foreign policy and the effect of the international drug trade and the history. You read Peter Dale Scott. He wrote a book called Cocaine Politics back in the 80s, right? And you read that along with this other book by William McCoy or something, The Politics of Heroin. The Politics of Heroin, the first few chapters are basically talking about how the British Empire was expanded financially so well because it was dealing with drugs in Southeast Asia. I mean, the British Empire was essentially dealing drugs to make a shit ton of money back to the empire in Southeast Asia. Um, and what the politics of heroin and Peter Dale Scott in his books unpack and talk about is this hidden history of the United States. Like you watch that show Ozarks on Netflix. Jason Bateman is a money launderer for the Mexican cartel, etc. I mean, look at Mexican society or South American society right now, right? Or back to the 80s. Some of the richest people, not all, but some of the richest people had their hands in the international drug trade. They're moving huge amounts of fucking cocaine from South America to the States, right? Like there's I got a song, it's called Fiancés of Death. And Fiancés of Death was the name of a death squad led by ex fucking Nazi war criminal Klaus Barbie when he was living in Bolivia because he was allowed to go there through the rat lines that was aided by the CIA, right? And he helped establish a death squad called the Fiancés of Death, and it was called the Cocaine Coup of 1980 in Bolivia, where a death squad led and trained by a fucking ex-Nazi, well, no, a Nazi psychopath, war criminal, Klaus Barbie. They they disseminated this whole town in Bolivia for them to rise to power and become the heads of the Bolivian government, which was a government that was financed by the cocaine trade and all the money they were making in that, you know. So swerving over into this lane, Peter Dale Scott talks about this stuff, right? And this is an element of the deep politics that Peter Dale Scott and these people are breaking down. Not these international fucking pedophile, fucking crazy David Icke shit parties, right? Like the this deeper thing, and even Epstein, what came out, that's fucked up. That's very fucked up. The shit that Epstein was doing, but like it, while all this is happening, this realm of intrigue and scandal that the humans love reading about or whatever, checking on, you know, uh, Willie, what's his name? Woody Guthrie. See if I get the lyric down right. You know, once said, or I'll paraphrase. You know, like some people will rob you with a gun, some people will rob you with a pen. You know, and like we've been robbed. Is what I'm saying. Most humans have been robbed since 2008 and on back, constantly getting robbed in different ways, you know. And one thing I'm looking out for, because you know, is they're going to try to take our social security in America. I don't know. I don't know. That's all speculations. But the idea of seeking to keep the populace in line, you could just fucking pick their pockets more and more. No, we need this, we need that, we need more austere times. You know, you need to figure out how to make do with less, you know. And one of the ways of maintaining that is through propaganda. So I'll swerving all over the place there. Speaking about the notion of deep politics and how the idea of deep politics and how QAnon and all this stuff has just kind of blown things out the frame, making it's blown the context out. Because even in with talking about the crazy David Icke pedophile party shit, right? Like, I mean, you know, Father Crow, you know, you're out on that side of the pond. Like, you remember 2015, after Jimmy Savile died, there was a huge scandal, you know, sex scandal about these higher ups in British government, those high up in Maggie Thatcher's government, right? Who were fucking pedophiles, man, or the allegations, multiple allegations of them being pedophiles, and they made a commission. The British government made a commission to investigate these things. And who was put the head of the commission? Theresa May, before she was elected prime minister in 2016, right? Theresa May, I think it was 2016 she was elected. But before she was elected prime minister of England, she was the head of this commission that was supposed to investigate all these claims against these higher ups in British government, who these ridiculous, horrible, disgusting claims of them being fucking pedophile parties. Disgusting, right? But so where's the discussion of this now? I think because of QAnon, polite society is not going to want to have it or not going to want to hear anything about it, which I think I'm going to speculate. I think that that was planned. I don't know. Maybe it was planned. Maybe, if it wasn't planned, it kind of works out well for those who don't want people looking or talking about this stuff. But who knows? We're in a new age because the internet has got more information than ever before. Maybe it would still be possible for people to have discussions about these things. But they're banning people like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from Instagram. And I don't, again, like, it's a rough, I'm not with it. I'm not cool with that, you know? But at the same time, you see these videos of anti-vaxxers in Los Angeles. A bunch of anti-vaccination people tried to stop, hold up a line for one day. They actually were able to close down the line of people trying to get vaccinated in Los Angeles, before the police had to clear them out. Right? They were able to stop people getting vaccinated. So we're living in a crazy moment. What Joseph Matheny said in an interview I did with him about QAnon was that we are approaching, through this technology now, a networked mind. And now within this networked mind, things are going to move lightning fast. So I understand why people, um, may be okay at the moment with someone like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. getting his Instagram taken down. I'm just uneasy about that. I don't think that he's different than fucking Trump. He's different than Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity. You take down RFK Jr.'s thing. Why don't you take down so many these crazy fucking people who actually have talk show shows, talk show, right wing, or just talk show shows? Take their shit down, man. Like, you know how much stupid bullshit Fox News has promoted over the years? I think they're more detrimental to the psychological health of everyday people than Robert F. Kennedy Jr., even if he's saying total fucking nonsense about vaccines, you know? But let's go to the comments here. Father Crow says, oh, we got Father Crow is talking to just looking at everything. Let's see. All right. Father Crow says back to Boole. Right. So Boole being, I guess, the creator of the computer, right? And Adam Curtis is, I like where he's going with his breaking down the idea of the internet. I mean, in his last movie, Hypernormalized, he was critiquing the idea of techno utopia, that people like Wilson, that Robert Anton Wilson, seem to believe that a certain techno utopia could be achievable, and it never happened. Let's see. Just looking at everything says Bruce Sterling has given up on the internet. Right. And Father Crow says that's okay. I've given up on Bruce Sterling. Da da. Let's see. I'll tell you why. I used to work in IBM server farms. Right on. Extreme emotions get engagement. Yep. Just looking at everything. I'm reading your guys. Says why, Father Crow? Father Crow says the more severe emotions get a more engagement. That actually reminds me of something that this Supreme Court judge named Oliver Wendell Holmes called the hydrostatic principle of stupidity, right? So Oliver Wendell Holmes basically commented and then later Timothy Leary and Wilson added on to it that Leary said this: the most emotional person in the room gets the most attention. So it's kind of similar to Father Crow, what you're saying about how these social media or interneted things, you know, media products that we create, how the more severe emotions get the more engagement. And it's true, but I'm saying this is something that's deeper than just what they figured out with the internet, right? I mean, this is the idea of the human mind, a certain love of intrigue, if you will, or again, the hydrostatic principle of stupidity, that the most emotional person in the room gets the most attention, right? So you may not build that thing you need to build in the room when someone is in there you know, fucking crying about how they stubbed their foot or something, you know. Let's see. So the more extreme reaction a video gets, the more likely the creator is to appear on your feed, says Father Crow. He says, watch one Joe Rogan video and end up with white nationalist videos for the rest of your life. Let's see. That's why the algorithm is written to maximize engagement. Right on. Yeah. Doesn't matter if it's bullshit. If the bullshit gets you pissed, it's engagement. Curtis talks about Jim Garrison's belief in the top state and how it led him to abandon. Yeah, these are all great comments here. You know, bring back the American Fairness Act. Just looking at everything says. Right. Are you referring to the fairness doctrine in journalism? If so, yeah, I agree. And maybe I should do a quick little video about that, the fairness doctrine in journalism, and how that was basically, taken out or rolled back. I think it was during the 70s, right? And you see a steady decline, maybe in American journalism, according to one critical argument in American journalism, since the fairness doctrine was, rolled back or eradicated or whatever you want to call it. And then Father Crow adds on, Boole created the language that codified human behavior. That's deep. And Father Crow, I think we'll see, right? Maybe Curtis is definitely going to get into this in the rest of his, episodes in his new documentary. On that, I've been on here over 90 minutes, just fucking jibber jabbering. Thank you to Father Crow and just looking at everything for, engaging in the live chat. That's really cool to have some people on here. Thank you to the people right now watching. I'm going to make more videos like this in the near future. Want to, again, I think where I'm just going to go is I'm going to keep commenting on Adam Curtis's documentaries, right? And also just bring in some discussions of other books like, Propaganda and Persuasion. And, just looking at everything says Reagan killed it. So I think you're referring to the fairness doctrine and that Reagan killed it. So then that would have been, Reagan was elected in 1980. So the early 80s, Ronnie fucking Reagan, that guy, that fucking guy, Ronald Reagan, who was a B movie actor who became the SAG-AFTRA president. And he got according to one story, his career got a boost once he started ratting on communists in Hollywood. He led a witch hunt, Ronnie Reagan, in Hollywood, looking for the commies back in the 50s with the House of One-American Activities for Joe McCarthy there. And hey, Reagan became president. Reagan's like the first Trump. Let's be real with it, man. Trump was saying the same shit as Reagan. You know what I mean? But Reagan has a better TV image than El Trumpo. But that's it. Let's see. Yeah, just looking at everything. Thanks, Propanon. Check Conspiracy Distillery for more Q info. Cool, I will. That's what it is. That's what it is. Ronnie Reagan, another fine Irish American. That's right. Though, yeah, he was that type of Irish American. The shithead Irish Americans. Yo, peace to all the good Irish Americans out there, because I know you guys are out here too. Peace to all the good Irish people. Peace to all the good people of the earth. Every good people of the earth. We're all in this together, man. We got to figure this shit out before Father Crow says I'm Irish, by the way. Man, I know you're Irish. But maybe you're putting that for the people on the live chat. Yeah. Peace to Father Crow, man. Good Irish dude. But yeah, thank you guys. And over the 90-minute mark here. Chew that. Others may not know. That's true, Father Crow. Father Crow is Irish. Let people know. Thank you, sir. Yeah, so like I said, I'm just gonna jibber jabber, man. Thank you for everyone right now watching this shit. I'll put this stuff up later, and we'll continue this discussion of Adam Curtis's documentary. And I didn't get into much about Discordianism and Thornley in this one. I want to let the documentary play out a little bit before I comment on that. So that's what it is. Thank you very much, and peace out, everyone.